My husband Ethan held a wedding for his unattainable love. He thought I would make a scene like before. But this time, I calmly signed the divorce agreement and left all the past behind. People in the circle were betting on when I would regret and beg for mercy. But half a year passed, and I never showed up. Ethan appeared indifferent, thinking that as an orphan with no relatives, I had no choice but to depend on him. He was certain I would return home. When my wedding photos with someone else spread throughout the circle, the man who was always noble and composed suddenly went mad. At the wedding banquet, Ethan approached me with one arm around Celine's waist. Both had attractive faces, appearing well-matched and pleasing to the eye. If I weren't his wife, I might have complimented them as a perfect pair. Ethan usually concealed his emotions, but this time he couldn't hide his joy. When he accidentally met my gaze, his face turned cold. "What are you doing here?" Seeing me silent, Celine took the initiative to smooth things over. "Mia, don't worry, Ethan and I have nothing going on, it's just an act. If there was something, it wouldn't be you two who are married, right?" She laughed brightly, completely unaware of the impropriety in her words. Ethan looked at her indulgently, with no intention of refuting. Seeing their affectionate manner, my heart was pierced once again. "He is my husband, don't you have any sense of shame?" Celine was Ethan's first love, they separated due to a misunderstanding. After the breakup, she still lacked any sense of boundaries. Whenever something happened, she would immediately seek Ethan's help, and he would resolve everything for her without hesitation. This time, Celine had a spat with her boyfriend and threatened to make him jealous, so Ethan organized this wedding for her. I originally thought that if I persisted, I would eventually win his love. But seeing the wedding I longed for but couldn't have, which she obtained effortlessly with a single word, I suddenly couldn't hold on anymore. Celine clutched her collar in confusion and helplessness, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Ethan glanced at me indifferently and carefully shielded her behind him. "This wedding was my idea, if you can't accept it, then let's divorce." At the end of the wedding, I was the only one who left in embarrassment, taking a taxi back to the Chu residence alone. The tiny glass shards cut my feet, but I felt no pain, walking back to the room in a daze. Looking at the place where I had lived since childhood, it felt strangely unfamiliar for the first time. I had been sponsored by the Chu family since I was young. In the daily interactions, I hopelessly fell in love with Ethan, but he never reciprocated. After returning from university graduation, he suddenly confessed to me. At that moment, I was so excited that tears streamed down. Years of affection finally received a response, with bitterness and joy surging simultaneously. I thought he loved me too. Later, I learned that Ethan was with me only to revenge against Celine for breaking up with him. Tears soaked the pillow. I tried to curl up into a ball, attempting to draw a bit of warmth, but it was futile. In the night, the itchiness on my ankle woke me abruptly. Opening my eyes, I saw someone who shouldn't be there. "Your foot is injured, why didn't you say anything?" Ethan gently held my calf, applying a band-aid to the ankle. Under the warm light, his figure appeared so gentle. The rare warmth made me recall our first meeting in a daze. At that time, I had lost my only relative and arrived in a strange environment, unable to hold back tears. Ethan glanced at me indifferently, turned back to his room, thinking he wouldn't come out. A lollipop suddenly appeared in front of me. "Stop crying, it's ugly." My eyes inexplicably stung. Ethan raised his hand and gently wiped the tears from the corner of my eye. "Why do you always like to cry?" I sniffled, trying not to embarrass myself. "Why did you come back?" Ethan seemed to remember something. His expression suddenly changed, exuding strong pressure. "Was it you who posted the online message?" Someone uploaded today's video online. Sharp-eyed netizens discovered that Celine wasn't Ethan's wife. The matter fermented quickly, and Celine was harshly criticized. I suddenly laughed out loud. Self-mockery, anger, sorrow, various emotions overwhelmed me, making it hard to breathe. Clearly so sad, yet not a single tear fell. Ethan seemed oblivious to my expression, his tone growing colder. "Delete the video, I won't pursue it. All the gentleness earlier was just to trick me into confessing." Realizing this, I angrily pushed him away. I said it wasn't me, don't you understand? In the struggle, I nearly fell. Ethan reached out to help, but I harshly shook him off. My expression was too sorrowful. He was stunned for a moment, then quickly regained composure. It's not important. Just post a video to clarify for Celine. The online rumors were too harsh. He didn't want his beloved to be called a third party. Just say you're not my wife. He said he would handle the rest. At that moment, I finally realized how pathetic and ridiculous my years of persistence had been. I agreed to his request, with the only condition being divorce. In this game of three people, I finally couldn't persist anymore. Ethan didn't expect to hear the word divorce from my mouth, his brows furrowed, seeming displeased. Over the years, every time I threw a tantrum, it was he who mentioned divorce. I had never brought it up once. This time, he might have truly hurt me. Stop fooling around, you know I don't coax people. He didn't expect my attitude to be unexpectedly firm. If he didn't agree, I would never post the video. Make a choice between me and Celine. I believed he would have an answer. Ethan lowered his head, his hair covering his cheeks, hiding his emotions. The next second, he lifted his eyes to look at me, his peach blossom eyes deep as water. Fine, I agree. Indeed, Celine was always his first choice. During the divorce registration, Ethan still thought I was throwing a tantrum, hesitating to speak several times. Along the way, our gazes never met. In the past, I always chased after him diligently. Now, I could no longer pursue. Leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, he drove me to a private room with a somber face. The room was full of people. Friends who grew up together shielded Celine in front of her upon seeing me, fearing I would harm her. To this, I had no reaction, just calmly recorded the video. Sorry, Mia, I just wanted to make my boyfriend jealous. I didn't expect it to cause your divorce. Celine stopped me, her tone full of apology, but her gaze clearly showed triumph. But Ethan is always generous to his exes. After the divorce, you can still get quite a lot. Facing her provocation, I laughed instead of getting angry. I left with nothing, making it convenient for him to save for your dowry. Are you satisfied now? With the Chu family's power, making an orphan like me leave empty-handed was truly simple. So Ethan was certain that even after divorce, it wouldn't be long before I slunk back to him. He leisurely twirled his cup, his gaze vaguely directed this way. Not wanting to be a stumbling block between them anymore, I lifted my leg to leave, but was stopped by Celine's friend. This outfit of yours is a limited edition from DA, now out of print. It should sell for quite a bit. If you're really tough, don't take anything with you. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. No one spoke to stop it. Ethan looked indifferent, completely detached. He was waiting for me to beg him. As long as I softened, today's matter would end, and I would still be Mrs. Chu. The weather was near freezing. Without a coat, I could easily get frostbite. I hesitated no more, took off my coat and threw it at that person. Only when I was left with a thin inner layer did Ethan finally speak. Get out. When going to print documents, I still felt somewhat unreal. That day, after leaving the room, I soon fainted on the road. Unexpectedly, Adrian picked me up and made me his assistant. He is Ethan's older brother. His mother was the original wife, but unfortunately trusted the wrong person and ended up leaving in embarrassment. I thought Adrian took me away mostly to deal with Ethan. But I couldn't care about his purpose. As long as he gave me a place to stay and a job to make a living, I had no reason to refuse. For me, surviving was the only goal. Returning to my seat to organize files, I opened my phone and saw the first push notification. It was Ethan. He held a press conference with reporters. The reporters below, eager for first-hand information, dared not be presumptuous in front of him, only cautiously probing. Ethan, what is your relationship with Miss Celine? Celine stood beside Ethan, her cheeks flushed, somewhat embarrassedly dodging the camera. Ethan was a bit distracted but subconsciously protected her. She is a very important person to me. The reporters became more curious. Then the one in the video is. Ethan's face looked unpleasant. She's the Chu family's foster daughter, please don't misunderstand. He scanned around, seeming to wait for something, but nothing happened. Apart from some noise, there was no trace of chaos. Mia seemed to have completely disappeared, never to appear again. This realization made his heart skip a beat, but he quickly denied the idea. An orphan with no social experience, how could she survive without him? He was certain I would return, and his restless heart calmed down. Knowing it would be like this, his heart still ached faintly. Letting go of love ingrained in the bones was like cutting flesh. Adrian appeared behind me at some point. Bring the meal in. After saying that, he strode away with his long legs. I had no time to dwell on the past, grabbed the lunchbox, and chased after him. The heavy door closed, Adrian sat in the chair, legs naturally crossed, his gaze on me. Eat. Hearing his words, I sighed in relief, honestly took my portion, and sat to the side. Watch fewer videos that fool idiots. He suddenly spoke. I wanted to ask how he knew, but then thought, as Ethan's brother, it was normal for him to know his brother's news. But I couldn't help being more curious about another thing. I ate cautiously, occasionally glancing up at him stealthily. Adrian couldn't help but put down his chopsticks. If you have something to say, say it. After pondering for a moment, I sat up straight, face serious. Although I am Ethan's ex-wife, he doesn't like me. That meant I had no utilization value. If he wanted to use me to threaten Ethan, it wouldn't work. Having clarified, I waited fearfully for him to speak. The air was quiet for a moment. Adrian said nothing, but his expression conveyed what it meant to be amused and anger. Do you think I would waste my time teaching you for him? Am I some kind of cheap person? Adrian's words silenced me. He casually handed over a document. If you have nothing to do, do more work, that way, you won't overthink. These months, Adrian taught me many things: how to handle documents, how to communicate with superiors and subordinates. I subconsciously followed his instructions. Until I saw a series of work arrangements, my head instantly swelled. After handling the paperwork, Adrian personally delivered a gown. In gem blue tone, the fishtail skirt hem embedded with several circles of crushed diamonds, looking understated yet luxurious. Not having worn such clothing for years, I walked unnaturally when coming out. What's wrong? Not used to it. Adrian stopped and looked at me. I lowered my head. Does it look strange? I'd better not wear this. When I first married Ethan, he would take me to various banquets, but gradually, he stopped taking me out. Others discussed that Ethan felt his wife wasn't presentable, so he was unwilling to stand with her. I felt inferior for a long time because of this, and didn't dare mention going out with him again. What are you overthinking? Adrian raised his voice to interrupt my recollection, face serious. Never think you're unworthy, everyone deserves the best things. These words nearly brought me to tears. It had been many years since anyone said such words to me. Words seemed to have a power that could redeem wounded people across time and space. By my side, you must be confident. Before my tears fell, Adrian seriously adjusted his brooch, expression arrogant, because I am dazzling enough. Blinded by his confident radiance, I was speechless to refute. Along the way, he ostentatiously introduced me to big shots from various industries. Many beautiful women praised my beauty. After one banquet, the blush on my face never faded. Shy as I was, it didn't delay my duties. Having learned several minor languages, I fluently translated Adrian's intentions. After the banquet, I was so tired my brain was foggy. Busy, yet fulfilling. It was the joy of having one's value recognized. After several busy days, on the last day, I could finally soak in the hot spring to relax. I soaked in the pool with a face of enjoyment, unable to help exhaling a long breath. When I opened my eyes again, I saw a robust and sturdy body. Six-pack abs submerged in water, vaguely visible, the bronze body exuded strength and healthy beauty. How long are you going to stare at me? Adrian reminded me, his voice somewhat unnatural. Caught peeking, I quickly withdrew my gaze, awkwardly curling my toes. Having been with him so long, this was the first time seeing his body so clearly, though separated by a pool, it still made my face flush and heart race. It took a long time to regain composure. "Why help me?" As he stretched his arms and closed his eyes to rest, I couldn't help voicing my doubt. "You really don't remember?" Adrian looked somewhat aggrieved. "Back then in the debate competition, you defeated me thoroughly, how did you forget so quickly?" If he hadn't mentioned it, I almost forgot that I once shone brightly. At that time I was a member of the school debate team, representing the school in competitions and winning multiple awards. The debate videos are still circulating on campus. Adrian was once my defeated opponent. "You were eloquent in school, how did you become so taciturn after graduation?" His fervent gaze looked at me, voice carrying inspiring power. "You should move forward, don't get trapped." When getting out of the hot spring, my steps were weak, my mind full of that sentence. Back in the room, in the long silence, I removed the old SIM card. From then on, I completely cut ties with the past. Adrian was right, it was time to let go of the past. 3 months have passed, and Ethan hasn't called me once. I knew it was time to change, but after years of obsession, I still feel a bit reluctant. Now, I've completely come to my senses. After changing the phone, I re-engaged in life, traveling everywhere with Adrian on business. Meeting and encountering many new things. It was like raising myself anew, the whole person regained vitality. The company organized a charity event, I went to the orphanage with Adrian. The children there surrounded me playing, their happy aura infecting me too. "Want some candy?" Adrian appeared with candy, the children swarmed to him. He looked tsundere. "Call me brother, or no candy." He was still angry about being called uncle earlier. The children wisely called him, he immediately distributed the candy. When someone coughed, he carefully instructed them to eat it a few days later. Watching him coax the children, a thought inexplicably popped into my mind. He would probably be a good father in the future. In my days, he had walked in front of me, handing me a lollipop. "I'm not a child." I froze, saying dazedly. Adrian reached out to ruffle my hair, laughing heartily. Girls need coaxing no matter their age. Suddenly recalling Ethan's words that he doesn't coax people, I felt like laughing. The sweet taste of the lollipop seeped into my mouth, sweetening my heart too. "Adrian, thank you." The man in front stiffened, looking somewhat silly, but I smiled. "Thank him for leading me out." "Unfortunately, nothing to repay him with." "There is." Adrian suddenly spoke, startling me, his sweat-soaked hand held mine, eyes full of sincerity. I listened to his request in confusion. Adrian said his mother, after emotional trauma, had unstable mental health and poor physical condition. Doctors diagnosed her lifespan was short. She hopes to see me happy while alive. Adrian showed pain. I stopped him from continuing and agreed. Originally thought it would be exposed, but everything went unexpectedly smoothly. When Aunt Grace saw me, her eyes lit up, just about to say something, Adrian interrupted. "Mom, don't scare her." Aunt Grace tried to suppress her smile, quickly inviting me to sit. "Don't be afraid, I don't bite." Seeing her, I understood how Adrian's personality was cultivated. They were very alike. My inner unease eased a lot. Originally thought she would mind my past with Ethan, but she never mentioned it. Adrian personally tidied the guest room, his movements agile unlike a pampered noble's son. Wearing a short t-shirt on his upper body, revealing strong arms, sweat slid along smooth lines. Turning back with a smile, he resembled a boy next door. At noon, Adrian personally cooked for us. The dishes steamed hot, the aroma making one's mouth water. He actively served me food, I unnaturally wanted to refuse. But heard him softly remind, "Fiancé, eat." Quickly glancing at Aunt Grace, my cheeks reddened, finally, under her teasing gaze, I ate the food. Adrian kept serving me, like treating a child, fortunately, all were my favorites. After becoming boyfriend and girlfriend, Adrian introduced me to all his friends. Hearing I wanted to go to the amusement park, he said nothing but took me the next day. When pulled by Adrian to take wedding photos, I suddenly felt like laughing. In the previous marriage, we got the certificate and told relatives and friends, but in the end, not even a wedding photo or a simple ceremony. This time it was just an act, yet someone made it so thorough. Miss Mia, you will definitely be happy, the makeup artist suddenly said, smiling at Adrian. She said it was the first time she saw a groom staring at the bride the whole time, without impatience, but full of love. Changing into the wedding dress, walking out of the fitting room, I subconsciously looked for Adrian but unexpectedly encountered another man. Ethan sat on the bench, face somewhat impatient. Does it look good? Celine waited expectantly for a reply but only got a perfunctory agreement. She bit her lip, holding back displeasure. Ethan, do you think Mia will be angry hearing about our marriage? Ethan looked at Celine, expression slightly distant. But in his heart, he thought she would definitely be angry. Just seeing him fake engaged to someone else made her throw such a tantrum. If she heard he was marrying, she would surely come out and make a scene. Thinking this, his lips unconsciously curved into a smile. Celine called several times to draw his attention back. Ethan, if you're worried about Mia, you can call her. No need. Ethan regained composure. If she's capable, she should never come back. He had been too indulgent with women, allowing her the audacity to run away for so long. If he actively sought her, who knows what she would do next time. After they walked away, I came out from the corner, bumping into Adrian's embrace. Still can't let go? I shook my head. Just feel like years of feelings were fed to the dogs. Adrian sighed in relief, took me to the mirror, tidied my hair. Look forward, never look back, he said. When the wedding photos spread, I knew nothing, but Ethan's circle exploded. Someone recognized me, brought my photo to Ethan, he instantly reddened his eyes. The room was silent, atmosphere so stiff no one dared speak. Ethan pinched the photo as if to tear it apart. A friend tried to mediate. Isn't it better she's married, this way, no one disturbs you? Ethan's gaze sharpened, startling the speaker. Amid exclamations, he smashed the private room clean. Flying shards injured many, the man who spoke was covered in cuts, suffering in silence. She's mine. Ethan raged, Celine wanted to, but couldn't even see him. He finally remembered to call me, but when dialing, discovered it was an empty number. The fury suddenly extinguished. Picking up the photo again, panic appeared on Ethan's face for the first time. In the photo, I smiled brightly, completely different from when with him. It's not like this, he clenched his fist, softly reassuring himself. She can't leave me. Seeing Ethan again was on a bright afternoon. He rushed into the company like mad, the receptionist wanted to stop him but was scared by his expression and dared not approach. Ethan spotted me, stepped forward and grabbed my wrist, the force painful. How dare you take wedding photos with someone else? Hearing the accusation, I dazed for a moment, couldn't help reminding. We're already divorced, you and I have no relation anymore. Who I photo or marry with has nothing to do with him. Ethan trembled all over, his furious expression retracted, looking somewhat hurt and at a loss, but mostly angry. Who told you we have no relation? He stubbornly refused to let go, coldly spitting out words. You really are an ungrateful dog, others throw something casually, and you follow. My face instantly paled. So in his heart, I was just a dog raised by the Chu family, not even deserving my own will. You want to cut ties with me, fine, then first repay the money owed to the Chu family over these years. Ethan leaned close, expression sinister. If you can't, then roll back to me. As long as you return, I won't care about the past, you can still be my wife. Looking at the hysterical madman before me, a wave of nausea hit me hard. Adrian was right, such a person doesn't deserve my love. Not worth wasting time. When Ethan tried to drag me away forcefully, a force rescued me from his arms. How much does my wife owe you? I'll pay. Adrian. Seeing the arrival, Ethan completely lost control. Let her go. She is my wife. Adrian ignored him, carefully checked my wrist, confirmed no injury, then deigned to give him a look. If I remember correctly, you personally admitted Mia has no relation with you. Poor eyesight before, now even the brain is bad. He pulled me into his arms to claim sovereignty. This is my wife. Ethan, provoked to anger, swung a punch. Adrian instantly pushed me behind, ensured my safety, then swung his fist back. Two CEOs of listed companies fought fiercely in public, finally both sent to the hospital. Adrian groaned on the bed, I couldn't help glaring. Now you know it hurts. When telling him to stop, he was like a stubborn ox, wouldn't listen. Adrian agreed, he came to rob my wife, who could tolerate that? His gaze too serious, I dared not meet his eyes. Doubt arose in my heart, was he acting too seriously? Adrian wanted to say more, but I embarrassingly fled, not daring to see his expression. Going out to buy food, I walked back to the ward but was blocked by a pair of hands. Ethan stood before me covered in wounds, his eyes somehow tinged with grievance. He didn't speak for a long time, fearing Adrian hungry. I lifted my leg to go, but Ethan blocked, voice low and hoarse. I'm injured. So what? I looked at him puzzled, seeing his stubborn expression, I suddenly understood. In the past, whenever he was sick or injured, I would appear immediately, accompanying him. Over the years, we had grown accustomed to this mode. So when injured, he first thought of me. If injured, go to the doctor. If not, you can find Celine. Hearing me mention Celine, Ethan's eyes lit up, he knew she must care. How could she say no, love, and mean it? She did so much surely to attract his attention. Though he was indeed excessive this time, she was wrong too. How could she take wedding photos with someone else just because angry? Ethan looked at me like a naughty child. She and I have nothing, explain when back. Come home with me first. Certain I would go, his face became much calmer. I couldn't help laughing. You've taken wedding photos, this still counts as nothing. Ethan's face changed instantly, not expecting me to know. I leaned close to his ear, mocking, does it count only when a child is born? As if unable to bear my sarcasm, his fist smashed the wall. My body involuntarily shrank, somewhat regretting provoking this unstable madman. Indeed, with a backer, you dare speak to me like this? Ethan gritted his teeth. Do you think Adrian is any good? He approached you just to use you to anger me. He forcefully pinched my chin, forcing me to look up. You were raised by me, without me, who would want you? I advise you, ah. I bit his tiger's mouth hard, taking advantage of his pain to slap him fiercely. No matter what, Adrian is 10,000 times better than you know nothing, what qualifies you to judge us? I trembled with excitement, a pair of large hands pulled me into an embrace. Adrian blinked. Mia praised me, so happy. His eyes black like grapes, shining with excitement. Seeing me shy, he turned to chuckle. When gazing at the gloomy Ethan, his eyes turned cold. Who told you I was just using her? I've loved her for 4 whole years. Thanks to your stupidity, or I'd never get a wife in this life. After Adrian said that, I was completely stunned. Ethan was so angry he wanted to fight, but was pinned down by Adrian's people, unable to move. Following Adrian home, I was shocked again. Drawers full of photo albums, with only one protagonist inside. There were photos of me in debate competitions, activity photos from clubs, even from mixers. As you see, I've had a crush on you since university. Adrian said seriously, but his ear tips quietly reddened. I stared at him in astonishment and confusion. Why have I never seen you? Hearing this, he lowered his head. He knew my identity and that the one I always loved was Ethan. You had someone you liked, I didn't want to disturb you. Adrian, seeing me silent, couldn't help being tense. I approached you with a purpose, to make you fall in love with me too. You can be angry, hit or scold me, but no breaking up. Saying that, he tentatively hugged me and wouldn't let go. This was his hard-won beloved, even if beaten to a pig head, he couldn't release. I inexplicably accepted his confession. After opening up, Adrian became clingier. Any moment without seeing me, he would be very tense. I know you dare not easily love someone else again. He rested his head on my shoulder, clingy and affectionate. Let me love you, okay? Okay, I heard my own answer. Hearing Ethan's news again was half a year later. I went out to buy Adrian a birthday gift and unexpectedly met a former friend. From him, I learned he had broken up with Celine. These friends took turns advising Ethan. Not only did he not listen, he cursed everyone. After saying this, he cautiously observed my expression, trying to persuade. Mia, Ethan really regrets this time, you two reconcile. After all, grew up together, know each other well. I smiled, interrupting. Growing up together doesn't necessarily mean understanding each other. I teased him, he seemed to remember something, face instantly red. Before in the room, when I was humiliated, no one remembered we grew up together, now they did. Ignoring his ugly expression, I left quickly, but didn't expect to see the story's female lead so soon. Celine's gaze burned, as if wanting to stare a hole in me. Seeing me like this now, are you satisfied? After breaking up with Ethan, she wanted to go back, but unexpectedly, that utterly mediocre man also broke up with her. Seeing her hysterical, I suddenly recalled what she once said to me. You are truly pathetic, scheming but can't get a man's love, unlike me, just standing there, countless people obsess over me. Facing her provocation, I replied then. People who want everything will end up with nothing. I distanced myself. Your current outcome has nothing to do with me, don't disturb me anymore. Seeing me leave, she grabbed my wrist, cursing. Before I could retort, a strong force pulled her away, throwing her hard to the ground. Ethan! Celine shouted in surprise. Ethan just glanced at her indifferently. I told you, don't bother her, do you want to die? Celine shook in fear, quickly shaking her head. Scram! Looking at this group, I had a headache. The sky dropped a few raindrops, trending heavier. Ethan wordlessly took me to shelter. He took off his coat to cover me, carefully protecting, instantly reminding me of childhood. Back then, just arriving at Chu home, fear of the strange place and loneliness made me hide and cry secretly. Crying, I forgot time and the way home, ankle sprained, trapped in the back mountain grove. Ethan was the first to find me. He said nothing, silently squatted and carried me on his back. His not yet broad shoulders steadily caught me. He said the first words to me here. I'll take you home. Are you okay? The two sentences crossed time and space. Ethan's somewhat worried face appeared before me. Seeing sweat on my cheek, he wanted to wipe it but I dodged. He unnaturally withdrew his hand, pointed to a shop. Go into shelter from rain. I thought some words should be clarified, so didn't refuse. The coffee shop was quiet. The waiter politely asked what to order. 2 iced Americanos, no sugar. After saying, he looked at me smiling. I remember you like it. I dazed, under the waiter's surprised expression, changed one to caramel macchiato. I never liked iced Americano, drank it often before because Ethan liked it. Just to have one more common interest, I tried. Later found it indeed unsuitable. You never said before. Ethan looked at me dazedly, thought for a moment with head down. I'll remember from now on, all you love, I'll remember. Come home with me, okay? Seeing me silent, Ethan's tone more humble. We promised never to abandon each other. From young, he wasn't valued by Richard, his mother focused on her husband, no time for him. So I was brought back as his playmate. At first, he rejected me, even unwilling to see me. But after he took me home that day, our relationship improved. He first opened his heart, confiding no one cared for him. Little me pitied this pretty brother, promised to accompany him forever. Ethan held my hand, humbly begging. I've broken up with Celine, from now on, I'll love only you, let's start over, okay? When he calmed, I withdrew my hand, stood overlooking him. Ethan, I said I'd accompany you forever, as long as you don't drive me away. But he fell for another, leaving me alone. From when you chose to hold a wedding with her, this promise no longer counts. His face paled instantly, wanting to retain but not knowing how. I left, telling him never disturb me again, the one at home would be jealous. Wife, what do you want to eat today? Adrian in apron entered the kitchen, not forgetting to poke his head out for my opinion. I named a few dishes, he immediately agreed, showing his skills. I love eating, he likes taking me to eat various things. One year I got into Guangdong Guangxi farmhouse cuisine. He immediately took me on a plane, finally to Guangzhou. He hired someone to drive half a day up the mountain, just for me to eat the most authentic free-range chicken. As long as I say I like, even if busy, he'd make time to accompany me. We traveled everywhere. After 1 year of formal dating, he proposed. This time, I got the warmest, most romantic wedding. At the wedding, he cried sobbing, the atmosphere instantly became funny. Aunt Grace held my hand, handed me to him. You two be harmonious, if you dare betray Mia, you brat, I'll personally deal with you. Adrian carefully took me, walked to the wedding stage. Under all relatives and friends' witness, solemnly vowed. Mid-wedding, when changing gown, I met a previous friend. Same circle, meeting not strange. Mia, wait. He called, expression awkward, handed a box. Wedding gift. Feeling the weight in my palm, I thoughtfully opened the box, inside an emerald bracelet. That. He scratched his head awkwardly, I smiled, returned it. Too valuable, take it back. Feeling the burning gaze behind, I guessed something but didn't turn. Just as Adrian said, people should look forward. Don't stop for unworthy people or things. Wife, when you go to UK for further study, remember to video call me every day. Adrian served the food, buried his head in my neck, aggrievedly said. I ruffled his hair, poked him with finger. Got it. I felt great about getting into that university and fulfilling my childhood dream. I couldn't rely on Adrian forever, nor could I stand still. We were too far apart to make it to the end together. Wait for me to come back.